Welcome to this first Instagram Live of Reminded for the 2025 year. We are just starting, and my name is Ivana. I'm part of the Reminded team, and I will be your host this evening. So, let me first start by thanking you all for participating in this meaningful conversation that is Burnout. For those of you who are joining live now, and for those of you that will watch the replay, thank you so much for spending the time with us. We're going to be discussing what it is burnout, what are the signs, what causes it, and most important, how to heal, how to recover. So I would like to see all of you and let me know in the comments where you're joining us from, which countries, which cities. You can check here in the comments that you can write to us and let us know where you are joining us from. Hello, Marta, Shiban. Hi, how are you guys? I hope you're having a great day, like we are, and this time that we're going to be sharing. South Africa, hello, how are you? Thank you for joining us. And some other countries from Spain as well. And also, oh, there, Valencia, hello, from Portugal. Hi, guys. So nice, so cool. Amazing. Hello. So, joining us this evening is one of the kindest psychiatrists I have ever met. He's a mental health advocate, and he has helped so many people with burnout. I'm super happy because he's going to bring so much valuable information to this conversation. Let me invite him into this chat. Dr. Torben Bergland. Let me just check. There he is. Hello, Torben. How are you?
Hi, Ivana. Hi, I'm doing well.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear us all? Can you hear us on the other side? We might have some delay, so that's normal. Don't worry. They go and they're waving at us. Cool. So, Torben, how are you? So nice to see you.
You too. Yeah, well, I'm here in Norway, so it's quite cold. We had snow the other day, so probably different from your climate.
Very cozy though, with the snow, right? It's nice.
But not this time of year though. I prefer summer now.
It's true. That's kind of like a gift to have, some snow during this time in Europe. So, for those who haven't met you yet, can you share a little bit about yourself, who you are, and what you do?
Yes, I'm a psychiatrist. I've been working as a psychiatrist for quite a few years now, and also internationally. The last years, I've been very much like traveling basically around the world, talking about mental health, promoting mental health, including burnout, but also in general, mental health issues. So I'm a medical doctor trained as a psychiatrist in Norway, worked internationally, and part of my job internationally was creating the Reminded project. So that's it's nice to be on this live now and on Instagram also promoting.
We are super happy to have you here because I was so glad that we could have this space so people could have this interaction and ask questions that mostly sometimes you don't have anyone to ask about it. And today I hope they have key takeaways that they can take from this live. So let's just start from the beginning. What is burnout?
Well, that is actually a good question because burnout is not yet a medical diagnosis. But it's still something that many people, they understand like almost intuitively. When you talk about the feeling of burnout, many people can relate to that. Many people have experienced that at some point in life. So typically we associate burnout primarily with work, the workplace, the work context. But of course, like the problems that you can experience that can cause burnout, you can basically have that in any area of life. You can have that in your private life. You can have that in relationships, various kinds of activities where you can have this feeling that basically you have nothing more to give. You are exhausted, you are tired, you don't have energy, you don't have motivation, often for something that was very important, that was very meaningful, and that maybe even were very passionate about. That can be like kind of the paradox, that something, and you may still believe in it, you may still want to do your best and everything, but you just don't have the capacity, the energy for it anymore.
That's amazing. Like, I can imagine we can all, relate to that feeling of I can any longer continue, with either stress, fatigue, continuous exhaustion from the workplace, but also you mentioned from your private life, like, not only it happens in the workplace environment, but also with other aspects of life as well. And can you tell us, like, is this something that typically happens to executives, or let's imagine people who are busy all the time in offices, in organizations? Is it common in there, or it happens to other environments, people in other environments as well?
Well, it can happen to anyone, whether you're a cashier in a supermarket or a CEO in a big company. What actually is burnout in regard to the work context is often more common among young people than older people. Actually, because what we see burnout, we see that as the problem is a mismatch between who you are, what your needs are, and the demands or the environment or context of work. So when there's this mismatch between you and your job or whatever else it's in life, it's a relationship, if it's some charity work or a hobby or whatever, when there's like a continuous mismatch that causes stress eventually, that can wear you down. So that can happen to anyone. That can even happen to children who are exposed to excessive stress, pressure, that kind of things. And then in the end, you just can't handle anymore. And you just, as a protective mechanism, you start to distance yourself from everything. It's kind of like what many people can describe as like you hit the wall, or at least it becomes a very big obstacle that you just don't know how to do that and get over it and get what you should do to get that done.
Right. And how can we identify those signs or symptoms in us so we can be sure this is what I'm having? I'm feeling burned out and I need to take a step back, and recalculate my actions, what my behavior or what I'm doing. How can we identify that on us?
Well, I think whenever there is something that used to be important to you or something you should be doing, but you're finding yourself pulling back, you're starting to think negatively about it. And also what many people experience is they start to think negatively about themselves. Also, say, like if I'm a psychiatrist, I'm working with patients, and for a long time I've had just the load has been too much, or I've had specific challenges, or I don't have the kind of support I need, then I also may start to think, well, I'm really a bad psychiatrist. I'm not up to this. I should actually just quit. I should go and work on construction. Not that I'm very talented at construction, but like just doing, like, you just get this feeling, I cannot do this anymore. I should be doing something else. I'm not qualified enough. I'm not good enough for this. That's also an indication. But like what we started with, also just the energy, lack of energy, the exhaustion. That's often what you feel early on, and that's really when you start hitting the wall, and that can become very serious. Like you can become physically so tired that you're basically, people on the extreme cases, they can be bedridden. They're not able to get out of bed in the morning. They just don't have energy to do anything. So it's a serious thing, because if you don't take it seriously and don't take the appropriate measures when you start like butting your head against the wall or feeling like this is an obstacle, I'm like, whatever I should be doing just becoming a harder and harder thing. If you just keep pushing on, which is a common thing, because you start thinking, I just have to, well, I'm not good enough now, I just have to do this, and I just force myself. That really can be counterproductive. Then you just go further down the road of burnout, and the way back just becomes longer.
Right. So basically, we tend to do the opposite of taking a break. We start feeling like my work is not enough, I'm not good enough, I need to put more work, I need to work harder. And then I guess we fall into this loop, right?
Yeah.
Of like, I need to kind of like demonstrate I can do this, and kind of like it's a trap, right? The heavy load.
Yeah, and what often people experience, that they become less efficient. So you're not able to focus, concentrate. You procrastinate more. So basically, what maybe you could do in a short time before, you end up, if you try to do the same thing, you end up spending a lot more time to get that done. And then what's the next? Like, what do people typically do when maybe they start working long hours to compensate, because they want to get the things done? So instead of being able to do something in 8 hours, maybe you need 10 hours to do the same thing. But again, you are digging the hole deeper when you apply that kind of strategy. What do you say, like the counterintuitive things, when you're not able to get the job done anymore, you need to ask yourself, what's going on? What's happening now? Why am I having these issues? And then the strategy, if it is burnout, the strategy is probably not, the good strategy is not to just push harder.
Right. So how important is then to take a break and to do the opposite of what we think, like about, I need to work harder. No, I need to take a step back and take a break.
Well, it depends on what the cause of the burnout is, because typically when we think about burnout, we think about workload. We think about working too much or working too hard. But that's really just one aspect of it. People, if they have what they need, if they are nourished in whatever context it is, like say if we talk about work, if you have support, if you have good colleagues, if you are happy at work, you can do so much more than if you are lacking these other things. So burnout is not just like a function or a product of working too much. It can be that you're working in the wrong way. It can be that the work is wrong, that there are things about work, sometimes even beyond your control, that's where you get this mismatch of what you need, what fits you, and what's happening in, for example, the workplace.
I just want to say that if you want to dig deeper into this topic, Torben has written a beautiful article about being on fire or burned out. Which one are you at the moment? And you can find it on the website, reminded.org. You can visit that and find there multiple articles that Torben has written. So, Torben, have you experienced yourself burnout? Have you ever experienced it?
Well, actually, I think that I have been in some situations in life where I have had some degree of burnout. I remember when I was in medical school, actually in the beginning of medical school, so early 20s, I started struggling to keep up. And I started postponing exams. I thought, well, I don't know enough about this. So like that was a situation like as a student where I think like it was not a full-blown burnout. It was not that I never considered quitting. Like many people, if they would run like as a student would run into a burnout kind of situation, they would probably like think of quitting. I didn't do that. I continued, and then I also, for example, I decided, well, I have to do exams no matter what, whether I feel prepared or not. I just have to do the exam. Remember, once I was certain the day before the exam that I would fail, and it turned out to be probably my best exam ever during medical school. So like these are examples of how also our assessments of ourselves. Also in my 30s, I had experience. I was involved very much in a project I have started, very passionate about, been working very hard on the side, like besides working as a training as a psychiatrist, being in residency, I worked on this project and loved it. But then, like over the years, many challenges, things that didn't go quite well, and in the end, I found myself like I cannot do this anymore. Like I'm done with this. And then, in that case, my decision was, okay, I think it's time for me to leave this. So I passed it on to others, and I withdrew from that. So like those are examples of like sometimes it works. Like you can make adjustments, how you think about things, and then find a way to get back on track. Sometimes, like even when it comes to work, it may be time to say, okay, it's time to quit. I need to do something.
That's so important. I have a friend who was struggling, in the workplace because the workload was so much. And like you said, sometimes you don't have support from your colleagues, from your bosses. So you find yourself there in this dilemma of what do I do? And like you just said, we don't usually stop before the battery, is, full, but actually when it's like almost empty, totally empty. And that's when we pay attention and we go, I cannot do this anymore. So my friend went to a doctor and she told the doctor what was happening, and the doctor just said, change your job. So what for us was a surprise, because we were like, what do you mean change your job? It's not that simple. It's not that easy to handle such a change, right? So is it something common that doctors would say, to patients?
Well, it can actually be good advice. It's not always good advice. And I don't know if it's a standard advice. Like typically, if people still are committed to work, want to stay, then you have to work on like how can you figure out ways. What can you change in yourself, or what can change in the workplace to make this work and become like that you become a good match, that your job and you become like a good match, I guess. And I think that's when you have to assess like issues like workload. Like, are you doing the right work? Are you doing the work the right way? Is this actually what something fits you? But then also like the issues of feeling like, do you have control? Do you have influence? Or do you have too much responsibility? Like that has to do like with safety. feeling that it's a safe place, like safe to be at work. But then also issues like having community connection to others, feeling that what you're doing is meaningful, feeling that you can be pleased with what you are producing, what you are accomplishing. Like you can be proud of your job, and like you should also be proud of your workplace, of the organization, whatever it is. So like these are things where you can work on the job. But like then if you realize, no, this is not working. And I've been there a couple of times in my life also, where I just decided, well, either the problem is the boss, I cannot change the boss. So like either the boss needs to go or I need to go. And if you are an employee, well, there's not much of a choice. You probably have to be the one who goes. So like that's kind of, for some people that may feel like a luxury, or it may feel like a very radical step to take. And what you say, for some people may be shocked if they get that advice. Like, is that possible? Like, that's crazy. You cannot just change your job. But like sometimes when it's not working, like you just have to break up with a job. That's like really what you have. Like if it's either like a bad work environment, you just realize it can never change so that it will work for me, then maybe you have to be brave, take some bold steps, and consider your options if there is a different way that you can find a job where you can both get the money you need, but also get your other needs satisfied in the workplace context. So it's not bad advice.
Absolutely, and I love it, because I think what we're dealing here is our health. So I think that's the limit. If you cannot longer sustain this, then either you make changes, like you just said, you make changes. If it cannot change, then you have to take, one way or the other. You have to make a decision, and hopefully it's a decision that will be very healthy for your life, for your mind, and for your body, and for your loved ones around as well, so you can enjoy better, life. Just before we open the space for some questions, how can we heal? What we are already, in there, in the mud of burnout, and that how can we heal and recover? How can we get some, recharge a battery and keep going?
Yeah. Well, at the hospital I used to work, we had a special clinic for health professionals, especially doctors with burnout. And the research they did, actually, they proved that like there's one thing that really helps in burnout, and that's a complete break from work. That's what they found. That was like the fastest way to recover, was a complete timeout from work. Like this may be easier in some contexts than others. Like I'm in Norway, where you can actually get a sick leave and you can be fine financially. Like not all countries you can do that. But like still to keep that in mind, sometimes the fastest way to recover is not to try to say, if you feel like, okay, I can maybe work 80%, my capacity is 80%, well, maybe I should try to keep it on 80. A complete break may be the fastest way to recharge. But I think what's very important, and I think it's a psychoanalyst I know, it's called Josh Cohen. He says that burnout is like a symptom of that we live in a society where there is no off switch. Like we live lives constantly switched on. We live busy lives, not just in the work context, but like often in our private lives also. And like most of us, we're now on the phone. Like these phones are one of the real hazards also when it comes to burnout, because for many of us, we are like more or less addicted to our devices. So like the moment we have space after work, in the morning, in the evening, even at night where we should be sleeping, what do we do when we have like a moment of free space? Often we pick up the phones, we scroll, and even though we might...
No phones. Take a break
Yes.
take a break from bodies. Let's get one.
Yeah. So like that's what one of my recommendations, I think, especially a challenge now, like to find time where you just disconnect.
Disconnect.
And for many, like disconnection from work, if you're like really taking time off, not being constantly available for work, so that when you have some free time, whether that's hours in the day, there are days in the week, or there are vacations, like these things are very important. Like on a daily level, we should have time off, like spending with people we love, people we are recharged by being with, spending it outside in nature, spending like exercising, like burning the stress by being physically active.
Totally.
That's a very good way. And then like the general health principles, like eating well, sleeping well. And again, sleeping well, like put your device aside for 1 to 2 hours before you sleep. Like you shouldn't use any screens for 1 to 2 hours before.
Guilty. Guilty here.
Why?
So hard to avoid, taking the phone, to bedroom and then use it as your alarm as well. And the temptation is always there.
Yeah. I'm not an example in this. I'm not an example. I'm no saint. But like these still are very good advice, even though most of us struggle with them.
Small steps. We need to take small steps to improve it. Cool. So this is such an amazing topic because there's so much more to explore. Unfortunately, we just have some more minutes left, and I would like to open the space for everybody in the audience who are watching us right now. If you would like to ask a question, if you have doubts, if you want to know something specific about burnout, if you are struggling with burnout or know someone, take this opportunity to write some comments there in the box below, where you can ask a question here to Torben and we can answer. So if you want to use also the question mark in the icon below, you will find a question mark like a balloon there. You can also use that to send us a question and we'll be super happy to answer it. Let's see. So I can read one question here that says, how can you tell a person who is so engrossed in work that they don't realize they have burnout? Wow, amazing question.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good question. Like if someone is only, like if they are like just totally absorbed in work, then they are at high risk of burnout. If you don't find the balance between work and time off doing other things, like life is more than work. Someone who only works will eventually not work very well. I think that's the important. We have lived kind of in a culture, a society where working hard is something that is praised, something that even you can be proud of. But like if you're going to be a creative, efficient worker, you need to take time off work. And if someone doesn't realize that, they're probably in the hamster wheel. Like it could very well be off burnout or on the way to burnout. So if you just work all the time, like you won't be efficient. Like it's better, again, the strategy is better to take some time to recharge, like we do with our phones. Like we know, like the phones, we cannot use it constantly. We have to recharge it. And maybe you still use it while you are recharging, but still, like ideally, like you put it away and you recharge it at some point. Like we are the same as human beings. We need to find these ways so we are recharged, so our battery is not at like 3% or 5%. Like our battery should be like ideally in the 100 to 40% range. Like when you go lower than that, you are putting yourself and your life and your well-being, your relationships, everything, your happiness in at risk.
Yeah, I think this raises the question of, should we then, in the workplace, for example, that tends to happen often, have this conversation with our colleagues or bosses and say, hey, I don't want to reach my limit of burnout, but I really need to take a break and recharge and come back being more productive. I think that's a great point to come up with and say, I need to take a break because otherwise I will not sustain this work. So I think it's fair to do that.
I would say they're like an old school boss. The idea there is kind of like you push your employees to work and perform. A modern, like up-to-date boss, I think would much more be the one who communicates to the employees, like, take care of yourself. Take time to rest. It's okay. And even if you have a bad day, maybe this is not the day you should push hard. Like a good boss who has that kind of attitude towards the employees will probably accomplish, get a workforce that is much more productive and that is happier, collaborates better, is more creative than someone who's just pushed hard.
Totally. And then collapse. So that it's not really that helpful to keep pushing people. Absolutely. We have another question here, and it says, how can I find work-life balance and not experience burnout? Meaning, can you share some tips for us and some advice in terms of how to balance, the life aspects, and also work to find that balance?
Yes, I think for every individual, they have to define for themselves what their life is about. Many of us live in a capitalistic societies or whatever society, work is kind of becomes almost like an idol, a god. That's sort of everything is centered around work. But I don't think that's how life is meant to be. Everyone needs to define for themselves what is really meaningful in my life, and then allocate sufficient time and energy for that. In my case, I love my work. Being a psychiatrist is something that energizes me. When I've had a busy day with patients, but good encounters with patients, that gives me energy. I'm happy afterwards. But still, I couldn't do that all the time. I know that, when at the end of the day, after 7-8 hours of doing that, I need to do something else. And I know for me, exercise is very important. I'm happier whenever I am consistent in doing exercise, or even just going for a run, going for a bike ride. Just one, it's amazing the effect, the instant effect something like that has. But really, I should do that most days of the week or every day of the week. Something I don't always accomplish. But for me, that's something that is important. And also being with people. That you said, those are some of the things that really that energize me. I think that for every person, they need to make some priorities in their lives. What when I'm a good test can be when I'm retired, when I'm 80 or 70, or look back at my life, what's going to make me feel that I lived my life fully, that I'm satisfied with the life I had. For many people, if they do that test, they will realize, no, it wasn't working from 7 in the morning to 8 in the evening every day, and being exhausted, not having time for family, for friends, for other meaningful activities, whether that's religion or sports or whatever that is, art, whatever creative things you want to do. So that's something that we just need to like kind of reject this idea in society that work is everything. It's not. We are not slaves. We're not slaves. We should not live as slaves to work.
Absolutely. Beautifully said. Thank you. I think it's very, very important. The message that you're giving today is you need to make space for these important things in life. That is just not about work, work, work. And I think it will have a huge impact in the overall, in the all areas of your life, relationships, friends, family, your partner, your children, everybody will also benefit and you will recharge. And as a result, I think it's such a positive step to take to make room for that in our life. So I think we're almost, oh my gosh, the time goes by so fast. Yeah. I just want to thank you all for being part of this first live that we had. Thank you so much, Torben, for your heart, for your open heart, and for all this valuable information, this practical advice. It's a pleasure to have you here. I hope we have another one with you, another session. And I also want to remind everyone that they can go to reminded.org, that you can visit the website reminded.org, and you will find tools, strategies, and practical advice about mental health to take better care of your mind and your overall well-being. So I think if you guys have any more questions, I think we are gonna wrap this up.
Ivana, I see that there's a question there about online tests, assessments. If you go to the article On Fire or Burnt Out on the Reminded website, reminded.org, there is a test in that article. There should be, I think. So that is one of the tests. Like there's several. If you just Google it, you'll probably find other tests also online. But that is an easy, meaningful test where you can make an assessment of like how burned out you might be.
Wow, cool. So there you go. You will have tools that you can actually implement in your daily life, which is actually, I think, something very practical that you can do at home or when you are in your office, when you're outside, that you can also access the website from your phone, from computer, wherever you are, with internet that you can have, and it is available, high quality content for free for you to access, and it's very, very easy to watch it and to read it. So, oh my gosh, it's hard to say goodbye, but I think we are almost there in terms of time. So guys, I want to thank you so much for being with us today. And until the next live when we connect again, it was a pleasure to have you here, Torben, and everybody. Thank you so much for your interaction. And I hope you have had some information, some key points, some helpful and practical advice that you can take away from this live and apply in your daily life. If you want to reach out, feel free, please. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, also TikTok, and on YouTube. You can send us a message, a DM, or also leave some comments here and we'll read it and we'll be there answering all your questions and doubts. Thank you so much. Thank you, Torben. Thank you, everybody. Have a beautiful evening and see you soon.